Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations That Matter Most. I'm Claudette Chenevert, the stepmom coach, and I'm here with my wonderful, amazing, funny, engaging, inspiring co-host Sharona.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Claudette. Welcome aboard.
Oh my gosh, I so love doing these episodes because you don't know what we do behind the scenes to get ready, but we crack up sometimes. We make ourselves laugh just to get the energy running and because we love being here with you guys and to share our message, our knowledge and hopefully inspire you at the same time. So today we want to talk about loneliness, and it's a broad topic, but we'll be sharing a little bit about. I know I'm going to be sharing a little bit about myself when it comes to loneliness, and I think it goes into many different areas of our lives, whether you're a stepmom, a midlife woman, or anything in between, from little one to older person. But before we start, I just want to, share with you why we're doing these episodes called Conversations That Matter Most. So a while back, Sharona and I met through some groups that we were in, and we decided to, hey, let's just have some conversations and support one another and talk. And we had these amazing conversations. And we thought, like, wow, wouldn't it be great if we shared these conversations, these topics with other people? Myself working with stepmoms and Sharona talking with midlife women in topics that range from talking about anger, about happiness, procrastination or precrastination. You know, we've talked about many different topics, and so we have over 25 different topics in our library. So if you're interested in listening to any of our past episodes, we really invite you to go and check it out. Even subscribe to our channel, that would be great. But part of the premise behind this that Sharona and I started was to really, get this to help you start a conversation. So it's not a matter of you agreeing or disagreeing with us. And if you've listened to other shows, you'll hear us start our shows this way. And we want to do it purposefully because if you're new, if this is the first time, we're really excited, we're happy. But we also want you to feel comfortable to be able to listen to our conversation and even chime in if you want to. There's a chat room. You can chat with us, or you can even leave comments below. We'd be happy to read and hear what you have to say. But I think that the art of conversation today is going wayside. And with everything that's going on these days, there's a lot of conversations that are pretty nasty and concerning. But what we want is a place for us to have a conversation about topics that we feel are important, that may be a little deeper than your traditional, regular, everyday conversation. And so we hope you enjoy what we are sharing with you. And even if you don't, if you have a different opinion, and that's okay, we welcome different opinions. We're not looking to side you towards our side of thinking, but if you do have a different opinion, feel free to share with us what it is, and we'd be happy to hear. We won't take offense unless you're being really nasty and mean and vulgar, and then we'll take care of that part. So anything you want to add or share, Sharona, to what I just shared here with you?
Oh, I think you covered it really well, Claudette. Bravo, bravo. I think the other thing too is, yeah, we wanted to have these deep conversations, but we also wanted to bring a little bit of realism and authenticity T. Yes. I sometimes make up words, so you might hear a Sharona word somewhere in there. Um, and the other thing, so just to let you know, none of this is scripted. We
No.
have this idea. We're just going to have a conversation, and so that it shows that sometimes we might stumble. We might hear loud construction noises. We
Or a dog barking.
or dark, or my cat deciding that it needs to voice its opinion in the middle of it. But whatever we're doing, I consider myself an earthling. I'm talking to another phenomenal earthling, and we'd like to just invite you to come and be part of this community of either if you're a midlife woman, a stepmom, or just another earthling who just wants to get some inspiration, motivation, or just a stepping stone to what you need to do next. So that's my little spiel. Anyway, that's what I needed to say.
Excellent. So, as I said in the beginning, we want to talk a little bit about loneliness. And I think it's important to have that conversation because if you're feeling lonely, the last thing you're going to be doing is talking to other people about how lonely you are. It's something we tend to do on our own. It's a very isolating moment. Don't you agree, Sharona?
Yeah, and I think one of the things is, as I was thinking about this topic, I was coming up with something that I wanted to explore a little bit the difference between loneliness, isolation, and solitude.
Hmm.
Because I think as I'm in my midlife, I have realized that something has shifted. That I want to live more of a life of solitude, but not. And I don't feel lonely. Loneliness is, I think, how I define loneliness, and you might have another concept of loneliness. But loneliness to me is the disconnection from self and others.
Yeah.
From like there, I could be, it can happen when I'm standing in the middle of a crowd and I feel very disconnected to that crowd or that group, or I don't feel like a belong or something. And there's this sense of I'm all by myself. There's nobody else here. I don't feel connected to anyone. What do you think about that,
I love
Claudette?
what you just shared. The difference between and one of the things you'll notice is I love to take notes while we're talking. This is my little pad here. Yeah, I love what you shared about the different. There's difference between being lonely, isolated, and solitude. I'm with you. I love my moments of solitudes. I need my alone time, my moment of peace and quiet with no noise, no sound, just blissful silence, which I find is harder and harder to get nowadays because there seems to be noise everywhere, no matter where you are. But I love what you said about loneliness. It's a sense of feeling disconnected. And, when I was preparing for our show today and our episode today and thought about, what is loneliness? And it just triggered for me what you said is that, I'm the oldest girl of four daughters. I have an older brother that my mom gave up for adoption many years ago, but he's now sort of in the picture. But as the oldest daughter growing up, I felt very lonely. And I shared this with someone else because I asked, describe your childhood. And they said, it was lonely. And she said, but I'm an only child. I said, but I'm the oldest of four girls. When you said, you know, there's a disconnect. And that's exactly how it was. I didn't feel connected with my siblings, with my family. I felt like, I was transplanted from some other planet into this family, and like, okay, you're supposed to fit in. Like, and I didn't fit in. And I think part of loneliness is not fitting in. Now, I just want to tie this in with stepmoms, and maybe you can tie it in with midlife women, that a lot of stepmoms feel exactly that disconnect. Like they feel lonely within their lives. So maybe that's why I understand so much about, feeling disconnected as a stepmom and as an individual, not feeling like you belong anywhere, like you don't fit in. You don't fit in. And that's tough. That's really tough to live your life not fitting in or having that sense of not belonging anywhere. So how do you relate this with midlife women, Sharona? Or maybe you have personal examples of loneliness.
Well, that's really interesting. I think I talk to a lot of women who feel like they came from a different universe or a different planet, and I go, what the hell am I doing here? Who are these people? I don't understand this concept of family. So it's, and but as a child, what I realized is I always called myself a free radical. Well, not always, but I got into that terminology because I would go off hours, even though I lived in an extended family for a while. I would go off hours on my own adventures in my imagination out in the world, and I've always liked that. But it was when I had to find my way into the community, I found that the way I lived or processed life wasn't how other people viewed it.
Hmm.
And so it's always been a struggle with me to belong. And so, and I found avenues to find groups and things, but I'm always like, really, I don't get what's going on. So, you're all speaking a different language. That's why I have Sharona words. And I know as midlife women, a lot of them that I've talked to and worked with is a couple things happen is the relationship, if they had children, changes. And because of that, if they're still in a relationship with a significant other, that changes. They're trying to find, and so, and then as we're going through our personal change as midlife women, we're also finding that the things we thought were important to us may not be, and we're trying to find our way. So there's a sense that we're going through this alone and we feel lonely. And there's this sense of nobody else is going through this. And no one will understand. I think going back to something you said at the beginning is that we don't think others are going to understand that we're lonely, because it may sound like we're whiny, or that we may um, maybe seen as something less than. There's
Or
something
like
or different.
victim.
So yeah, different, or not part of the group again. So there's this whole little dynamic going on. So, I think that's what happens as midlife women. As we keep going forward, we're finding that because we're going through this, how do we connect as we're uh, growing into our second act?
Yeah. 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 You bring some great points. Is that, how do we fit in as we're transitioning, right? We're transitioning, that like midlife women are transitioning into their second act in their lives. Stepmoms are transitioning from either being a single working woman to a instant mom, and it's like, who am I going to talk to about this? And for me, when I became a stepmom, I was already a mom. I was disillusioned by the idea, well, I'm already a mom, so it can't be that hard. Like, I'll just, go through this. And so when I realized, like, whoa, this is so different. And I can think of many times in my life where I purposefully I maybe not purposely. I'd like to say maybe more unconsciously isolated myself into loneliness. When my husband had cancer, I isolated myself from other people because I focused only on what he did, which caused me to be lonely in being able to talk about it. So I felt like I can't reach anybody. I isolated myself from other women who were stepmoms because I didn't want to be hearing the complaining, the venting, the nagging, the negativity about being a stepmom. I isolated myself when it came to being the oldest daughter in a family and not fitting in. So I think when we isolate ourselves, it can lead to being lonely, and it gets hard. It's this circle, right? That if you isolate yourself, then you're feeling lonely, and if you're feeling lonely, then you don't feel like reaching out because you feel no one's going to understand you, and then you don't want to be seen as a victim or whiny, and so it's really hard to get out of that cycle.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I think it is. And I think one of the things is, yeah, um, that, I think in that sense of isolation, we're trying to create um, boundaries so that we can take care of what needs to take care of. However, there's isolation and loneliness is, going there and going from isolation to solitude is a perspective kind of shift. Uh, and I'm trying to put the words around this. So in because I did that for a few years now because I needed to, for my well-being, I need to isolate myself from the world and everything. And of course I wasn't lonely. I didn't feel lonely because I said, this is what I need to do to take care of myself in this moment of time. Now, when I did feel lonely is when I didn't feel I had support,
Mm.
that I didn't feel that there would be anybody there that would understand the pain I was going through. And so I had to reach out. And I think that's the difference is to break the cycle, we need to reach out. It could be a friend. It could be a chat room. It could be an online meeting thing. It could be, maybe, wherever we are in our loneliness, we can, look for a coach or a specialist dealing with transitions and transformation. So whatever that is, I think a way to break that is to find a village or a tribe of people that will understand.
I love that. And I think you hit it when you said, isolation may not necessarily lead to loneliness. No, isolation is a boundary, right? We're creating boundaries so that we can help support ourselves. And as you're saying that, initially whenever I isolated myself, it was creating boundaries so then I wouldn't be bombarded. But then I would take that isolation too far and I would forget to ask for help. I'm the type of person who it took me years to understand that I needed to ask for help, that it's okay, that it asking for help does not mean you're weak. Asking for support doesn't mean that you can't handle it. Asking for help and support is actually a huge step. It's actually a monumental step for some people, not everybody, but for some people, to reach out and say, hey, listen, you know, I know I can't do this on my own. I'm feeling lonely. I feel like no one's understanding. I need another person's perspective. And one of my greatest advocates of support for me is my husband. Like, I can't say how much, he's helped me through a lot. And there are other friends. I've had some really great friends who's helped me along the way. And doing these shows with you, Sharona, has definitely helped me a lot in it's just our conversations. And so, if you're someone who feels lonely or isolated, ask yourself this question. You know, why am I isolating myself? And I think it's important to understand, why is it that I'm isolating myself? Well, in my case, when I isolated myself was to protect myself from feeling hurt, from being judged, criticized, of not being understood. But then, that loneliness feeling, that should be the key to say, okay, once I'm starting to feel lonely, that should be my key to reach out to someone. And then you say to yourself, who's the you don't need to reach out to a ton of people. Who's the one person that I could just say, hey, can I have a chat with you? Let's just a chat, a coffee, just exchange a few messages, just to see how things are going. And then it grows from there, because one of the things I know, in order to build, lasting relationships and to feel fulfilled for yourself, is you have to have the know, like, and trust factor. And whether it's a friendship or a long lasting relationship, or whatever, building that know, like, and trust factor. And we hear it all the time, but I think we can't minimize it. You can't just throw yourself to anybody and say, hey, let's talk, which essentially is a lot of people do when you're talking to total strangers on social media and asking for advice on people you may not know.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too is, I want to go back. I think, yeah, checking in with yourself. I want to just uh, restate what you just said, Claudette, because you made some really good points. So checking in with yourself. The reason I'm isolating. Um, and again, as you explore, be kind. Be kind to yourself. Don't there might be underlying guilt or shame underneath this isolation, this loneliness. You don't want, there might be feeling vulnerable. It might be setting up boundaries. It might be not knowing what to do next. It could be all that. I love the reaching out. And again, it could be not even sharing about what you're going through, but just, a lot of times asking for help and sharing is not only giving service to yourself to get help and reach out, but it's also providing service for that other person. Asking human beings are earthlings are so have this dichotomy. We get very self-centered, but there's something that I've learned, that if you really ask even strangers sometimes, can you help me? So, there's something in it that we want to jump in and see what we can do. We like doing that. I don't, it's something that a lot of us do. So asking someone, can we just have a conversation? I just need to connect with somebody. Would you be willing, just a cup of coffee, cup of tea, go for a walk, do something, take action. And then the other thing too is, even if in that sense of loneliness, find something that you like to do in the presence of other people. So it might be taking a class, going to an exercise class. So it's something that you like, that you may, maybe it's taking a finger painting class. I don't know, but it might be just something that you're interested in, and you don't have to talk to anybody, but just being in a room of people who share the same kind of likes or interest may help just give you a little space to explore outside the confines of feeling lonely.
And you know what you just shared about, going into a group and doing something with other people that have the same interests, this is where you start building the know, like, and trust factor, right?
Right.
Where if you share a similar interest, someone may say, you took finger painting as an example, which is something I'm really into these days. But, someone says, like, I really like what you did. Like, can you show me? So this is sort of like breaking the ice of your loneliness. I'm in Toastmasters, and one of the first things we do, our first speech we do in Toastmasters is called breaking the icebreaker. And there's a reason it's called the icebreaker. It's because when you're in a room full of people you don't know, it's really intimidating. And it's scary. But once you've broken that ice, once you've broken that barrier of loneliness, of that wall that is there, it helps you to connect one little step at a time, like one information, one tidbit. And, we're human beings, or earthlings, as you like to say, but we're human beings who need to connect with other people. We're not meant to be lonely. We can be in solitude. And as we mentioned earlier, solitude is good. But there's a difference, as we said, between solitude and loneliness. So, I enjoy being in my solitude, even within a group of people. Sometimes I'm in my own mind in a group of people. And so that's my solitude. But, being lonely, it's really hard because you're feeling disconnected. So reaching out, or just go, as you said, maybe even dancing or doing Zumba, or any activity, and you're looking at other people, maybe your smile. A smile is an amazing connector. Like, it can transform someone's life if you just smile. That's how powerful a smile is.
Yeah, and a laugh is even better. Just start laughing.
Yeah, that's what we do before we start our episode.
Just start laughing because it makes it. So before I think one of the things is the I just wanted to before we wrap, isolation doesn't fill your spirit. Isolation is that disconnect, and it doesn't fill you up. Um, Loneliness doesn't fill you up, but solitude can be very restful. It can give you a reprieve. It can give you replenishing. So that, as you're in that, also sometimes in that place of loneliness, it might be underlying, you might be dealing with depression or something else. So again, look at what it is, find ways to reach out, ask for help. um and for those introverts in our with our viewers, and there are many, and we, even us introverts, at some point, we can find a way. As you were talking about, being in a room and how to break the ice, I remember as a kid, as a child, I would see people doing something, and I was very bold and going, "Oh, can I play?" And sometimes they would say no, and but sometimes I go, "Yeah." And sometimes it's inviting someone to, let's go play. I don't know what that is in the adult world, but that kind of willingness to to say, "I'm feeling lonely. Let me connect to another person. Let me build a trust." You know, and let me just say, I'm feeling lonely, you're feeling lonely. Let's see if we can, do something. Anyway, I thought I'd just share that as we start to wrap up.
Yeah, and I don't want to bring on another topic, but definitely something I want you and I to talk about at some point in the future is that, we think that social media connects us to a lot of people, but there are more and more people who are feeling lonely, even with all the technology we have. So that's, a point to remember. Human contact, with another person, there's nothing to beat it, as long as it's a healthy, inviting contact where both are sharing and everybody are feeling respected, heard, not criticized, validated, respected. I think that's the kind of, you know antidote to loneliness.
Yeah, and as you were talking, years ago I read this thing that to be a sane human being, you need like you need to make touch people. We're social beings. There's a reason that other animals groom each other. There's a reason why they do that, because they're social animals, and we're social animals, and we have become so uh, worried about touching or connecting with people. And I understand that. But, that's why handshakes are, you can't, on social media, you can't touch and
Even though
you
I'm
can't, as I'm trying to touch you through the screen, you can't touch other people.
even though
But
I want to squeeze your little cheek.
face. So anyway, um, so Claudette, we shared a lot of information today and squeezed each other hugged each other through the thing, the camera. What is, if there's a stepmom who's feeling isolated and very lonely, how can they reach out to you so they can get some support to transform that loneliness?
Thank you, Sharona. So if you're a stepmom and you're feeling lonely and isolated, and I know there's a lot of stepmoms feeling like that, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I get it. I understand what it's like, and I would love to be your ears and your buddy to help you through that loneliness and help you engage your family to be a part of your life in a loving, kind, nourishing kind of way. And it is possible. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I can't do it." Believe me, I believe in miracles, and things can transform. Just doing a few little different things that may seem very little, but can make a huge difference down the road. So if you are interested in talking with me, you can go to my website, which is stepmomcoach.com. You'll find some information about there. There's a lot of resources. Um, Another way of finding me is I'm on social media. I'm all over the place. The best way to reach me on social media is if you do hashtag stepmomcoach or hashtag stepmomwisdom. Those are the two hashtags. You'll definitely find me just about anywhere. And the don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to say, "Hey, listen, can we talk? I'd love to talk with you." So Sharona, I know there's a lot of midlife women out there that are going through some changes and transition and wondering, like, is this it? Is this what being a midlife woman is all about? So how can they reach you if they're feeling lonely or isolated or wondering, what am I supposed to do now? So how can they reach you and talk with you, Sharona?
Well, they can. First of all, if you're a midlife woman and you're just at that place going, okay, I've done this so much of my life so far, not sure what the next step is, feeling alone, feeling isolated, things have changed in my life, you can reach me and I would love to talk to you. And connect with you. And you can reach me at midlifewomendancingwithchange.com. My email is Sharona at dancingwithchange. Midlife Women dancingwithchange.com. Also on social media, my hashtag is Midlife Women Dancing with Change. And the other one that you can find is emotional impact, the hashtag, because with any transformation and a transition, there's all these emotions that come up and how to deal with them. And even in the loneliness, you're dealing maybe with suppressed emotions or emotions you don't want to look at. And maybe it's time we look at those emotions and give them some light and air so they can flow through. So that way we can reconnect to ourselves and to others in the world. So, And I'm also in preparing I'm also going to be shortly putting up on my website a 6-part mini e-seminar called Thriving in the Midst of Midlife Change. So look for that. And again, email me, make comments below, people. Subscribe. So that way we're building a community here, and you might have some other ideas of how to break through a loneliness and reaching out. So again, it would be a great service to the community that we're building. So thank you all for being here.
The other thing I just want to say that, I invite you to re-listen to this broadcast, and to, when you're re-listening, take notes, pen and paper, or whatever you want to write on, and take notes. And, be a part of the conversation and listen, and ask yourself, how is this resonating with me? How can I, make it a part of my life? Or does it make sense to have this included in my life? Or this is me, this is not me. So just, as you're listening or re-listening to this episode, to this broadcast, just take notes and write it in a journal or a notepad, and have something to ponder on and talk with other people in your life. So that's the only thing I wanted to add.
Oh, well, that sounds great. Yeah. And you know what? And also share it with those who might find it useful information. So thank you, Claudette, for another awesome episode.
Thank you, Sharona. Thank you, everyone. We love having these episodes and love seeing you. So take care. Bye. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.